Wow. Welcome back. You've made it to Season 3, Episode 4, Part 2 of Podcast Bozo, where you came just in time to join us in a conversation about aliens, their existence, the science behind the existence, and more. This is an extension off the first part. If you missed that, go back, listen to that first. Here with me, as always, we have locally renowned beer server Sean and celebrated artist / animator Eli. My name is JJ, but you can call me Johnny Starluck. As always, it's good to be with y'all. I want to mention first that this is a podcast and it's supposed to be a group effort. I want to hear from you. You can visit us at podcastbozo.com or at podcastbozo on our social media accounts and participate with us there. And we'd like to respond to you on the podcast, feature what you have to say, feature your questions, that kind of thing. Now that we have you trapped here, please donate to our Bozo Fund and we will give you a shout out, read whatever you leave in the donation message, or even write you a little story. That's a pretty good one if you ask me. It's up to you. All you got to do is donate. Anyways, here's the rest of our conversation about aliens. We start off with a little bit of a segment, but after that, we're rolling. See you soon. So, at the beginning of this segment, I just want to start with a little something fun. It's a new segment we have, and it's going to be our third and final segment for the season. So now it's the time for everyone to take their stabs at ones that haven't done yet. This one is one that I've called Over in a Minute. And I'm going to read my own synopses of movies, and I'm going to have you guys try to guess what movie I'm talking about. The first one's a toss-up, especially for Cheek. I think you'll be able to get this one.
For the record, we're coming back to aliens. We're just taking a break.
Oh, yeah, good call.
I just want to make sure people understand.
If you're here,
we like to break it up.
We like to break it up, and we're going right back to aliens, part 2. Where did we end off on that last one?
We finished with our discussion on Travis Walton. We're going to move forward into a new sector of alien discussion, but we would love you to keep the frame of abductions in mind, but movies.
Yeah. So, and we'd like to split it up. Usually we have a conversation at the beginning, and so this is how. We're not going to have a conversation at the beginning of this half. We're going to have a segment instead. So the segment on this one is called Over in a Minute. I'm going to describe a movie. I have 20. I'm going to do it's going to be pretty fast. I'm going to give you 5 to 10 seconds in each one, depending on the quality of the description that I gave it, in my opinion. So, Cheek, I think this one's a toss-up for you. The description for this first movie is biodigital jazz, man.
Tron. The new one.
Exactly.
Damn, that's good.
Next one. The new one, Legacy. Next one. Sweaty sex guy Grecian wins war despite bad ankles.
Oh, Troy.
Yep, bingo.
Wait, what was it?
Troy.
Oh, I was going to say Achilles.
Sweaty sex guy Grecian. All right, next one. Never-ending hierarchy of murderers pushes one of the best to killing thousands.
John Wick.
Yeah.
I know that these are all going to be movies that we love.
Ready? Some of them will throw you off. Bringing new meaning to walk in someone else's shoes. A mother and her daughter swap bodies.
Freaky Friday.
Bingo. Insects put on a horror circus to claim territory.
Bug's Life.
Bug's Life?
Yeah. Stubborn treasure hunter rekindles relationship with his father while reliving the early 70s.
Oh, sorry.
National Treasure?
National Treasure.
Wait, that's what I said.
When I say reliving the... Yeah, when I say
Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, you said Nicolas Cage.
The movie Nicolas Cage.
When I say reliving early 70s, I mean reliving early 1770s. This one is Blue Bald Pool.
Big Fat Liar.
Blue Bald Pool.
Yep, got it.
Ah.
All right, this one. Matthew McConaughey goes to space.
Interstellar.
Yep, Matt Damon goes to space a different time.
Also
Mars.
Interstellar, but not Interstellar.
The Martian? The Martian?
The Martian.
Martian, yeah.
Yep. Mark Hamill is in space.
Star Wars.
Who's Mark Hamill?
Yep, bingo. All right. Space robot convinces Earth...
I don't want to do spoilers, but The Mandalorian.
Yeah, oof. Jeez, we're going to have to bleep that out. This next one is space robot convinces Earth robot to go to space and come back later.
Space robot.
Space robot convinces Earth robot. Wally?
Yep.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
All right. Vigilante speaks in low voice to protect the ones he loves.
Batman.
Yep. Handsome rich guy is also good at martial arts.
Batman.
Yep.
Crazy clown.
Jazz musician
holds city hostage. Batman.
Jazz musician drums until he bleeds
Whiplash.
everywhere.
Whiplash.
Yeah. Oh, cheek. That was a good one. If you are rich or powerful, falling asleep can be compromising.
Inception.
Oh, cheek.
Damn.
Middle-aged man finds new job that's tough on his already strained family.
Breaking Bad.
Mm-mm.
Say that one again?
The description.
Middle-aged man finds new job that's tough on his already strained family. The Santa Claus with Tim Allen.
You
Never got that. That's a good one though.
No, that's the synopsis.
Yeah, that's good.
Tell me how that doesn't describe it.
Tell me how my answer doesn't fit.
I didn't say. There's a correct answer, Cheek. Your answer might have fit, but there's a correct answer. All right. Stern but friendly farmer gets half of his family killed, only to change his mind and clinch a crucial victory in the war.
The Patriot.
Braveheart? Oh,
Cheek,
Patriot.
there you go. All right. Fighting darkness with darkness is the only way to keep civilization good.
The Hunger
Batman.
Games.
Yep.
Wait, what was it?
Fighting darkness with darkness is the only way to keep civilization good, and that's Batman.
Oh, true.
Unreal.
A society plagued by stereotypes finds a hero.
Batman?
Mm-mm.
Hey, come on.
Too many.
He's not going to do it more than 3
When
times.
doesn't Batman fit? Come on.
Plagued by stereotypes. What was it?
A society plagued by stereotypes
That's the
finds
Hunger
a hero.
Games.
Mm-mm. Zootopia.
Yeah, well.
Years of racism fueled hatred is solved with football and singing.
Remember the Titans.
Oh,
Bingo.
Yep.
And that's the end of the speed round, boys.
nice.
Who got more
Yeah,
points?
You had
Did I
some good
win?
ones.
I don't know.
I think you lost all your points on the last Batman one.
Yeah, you overshot the Batman.
Impossible.
Yeah, you overshot.
You overshot the Batman.
Batman's
You
applicable to
guessed
anything.
Batman instead of Zootopia.
Would you say
How'd you confuse those two
Did you
movies?
say the Tron one again?
Biodigital jazz,
man.
Awesome.
That's the only one that I chose an actual quote for the description because Jeff Bridges says that at some point. I don't want to take credit for that one. Sorry, Jeffy. Oh boy, I like that segment. That was a fun one. I just wrote down 20 movies and I just thought of the most obscure ways to describe them. My personal favorite was insects put on horror circus to claim territory.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Oh boy. All right. If you're a listener and you think you got those faster than Cheek and E did, leave us a message and we won't get back to you.
Yeah, fuck you.
All right, let's get back to it though. Just as a recap, we were talking about how what was his name again? Tony Robinson,
Travis Walton.
Oh, Jam Lopez.
Travis Walton, and we basically gave his story, which was he's lumberjack, got zapped in the chest, disappeared for 5 days, reappeared on the road. Friends are there to collaborate. They all pass lie detector tests. He has a pretty detailed account of the whole situation. There are some other factors leading against it as well. But we at the very end, we were talking about how Travis Walton and Bob Lazar may or may not intersect in their stories. And I think we're going to move on from there. So I think, Cheek, you were taking us to the next step there.
So I want to move away from, the lens is here. Let's pull it out. Let's pull the lens out a little bit. I want to talk
Why
about.
are we going to widescreen?
Yeah, I want to talk about government involvement and government and media involvement throughout alien history. So we started out the podcast telling that story about Roswell, which is probably the most well-known and well-acclaimed story of aliens. Actually, before we do that, did anyone watch the X-Files? Fans, not fans?
I keep trying to sing that song, but every time I get to the end of it, I'm singing another song.
I feel like you're doing the Hunger Games.
I always go into a Beatles song. I feel like I get the first half, so it's boo doo 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 doo, and then it turns into Remember by the Beatles. Da 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 da. But
you're talking about the song that goes like da da dun da dun da dun at first, the X-Files song.
Yeah. It's the Echoes. I think you got it better than I.
You want me to play it real quick?
Play it.
Maybe we'll just play it. Can you? All right, we could just play it for the.
Can we edit this onto the program? Yeah, that's fire.
Whoever designed that was so spooky. They were feeling the spookiness.
I hope you could hear that. If not, we'll post it. Can you write that down to post?
Yeah. What time are we at?
Well, you don't need to write down the time. It'll be a social post. But Cheek, from this angle, looks like you're some kind of tinfoil artisan. You got like a little beret. For anyone who's not watching, I think it's important to say if you've heard crinkling or any comments about it, we're all wearing tinfoil hats. But Cheek specifically took his hat and wrapped it in tinfoil. And it tends to look a little bit like a beret.
Well, it works if you've watched the HBO series of Watchmen, the extension from the movie.
Such a good show, by the way.
Great show.
But Cheek, Flat Earth with Science. You were going into we were going to widescreen.
I wanted to go into government intervention and media.
Mm-hmm.
Which I thought there would be a lot of information on. There's not.
Mm-mm.
Have you heard of Project Blue Book?
No.
Never.
So Project Blue Book was the program that was developed by the DoD in, I believe, 1952 after the Roswell experience to start investigating UFOs, claims of UFOs, more specifically, are UFOs a potential threat to national security?
Yeah.
You guys still there?
Lost us, but we can hear you.
I can't see you.
Yeah, I can hear you.
So that was the main goal. They investigated, like I said, 12,000 cases of UFO sightings and apparently came up with 11,300 or something, give or take a few, to not be a threat. Explaining them off with either spy planes, because don't forget, we're going to move through the Cold War era from 52 to, I believe the program was closed in, actually, is that the Cold War era, 69? Anyone know off the top of their head the Cold War era? Yeah, that's Cold War. So they explain 11,300 of those off with spy planes, clouds, lightning, and yada yada, just like other bullshit, basically. From 1969 to 2007, I believe, I couldn't find any evidence of a government program that was specifically designed to investigate unidentified flying objects and or extraterrestrials. So the information that Project Blue Book presented us with is next to nothing. The other 700 cases you can look at, I was looking at the National Archives website, is like you can, the post on the National Archives website that talks about Project Blue Book says you can come to DC and look up these files in our library. But this is the synopsis that what I already said before, most of those were explained off with lights and airplanes and spy planes and lightning and clouds. And that the other 700 of them, they just decided to remain unexplained, but they will give you no further explanation beyond that. That is all that you find from Project Blue Book. They're like, unless you go, I'm assuming this. I mean, anything that I could find is that I couldn't find any specific examples in case studies that the government investigated. They give you just a synopsis of the investigation, which, not a fan. Give me more information. So that brings us to 2007, where the next program designed, again, with a very similar mission, just to assess if UFOs are a national security threat. So this program that was established in 2007 was established by, at the time, Senate Majority Leader, I believe his name is Harry Reid. Did you find anything about Harry, Jay, or is that just me?
No, but it doesn't matter too much. It's a popular senator, basically.
The Senate Majority Leader at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So he wanted to basically secretively, it was never debated on Senate floor whether or not funding would be established for this program. Because I think, we have a culture like you were talking about earlier, JJ. If somebody came and told me that they were abducted by aliens, I'd be like, fuck off, buddy. Like, that's a joke. If a Senate member or any member, serious member of the government came to the floor and was like, hey, here's evidence, I want to investigate this further, everyone would be like, fuck off, buddy, right? Which I think
a senator I'd believe a little more, but
why? Why would you believe a senator more than just your good old pal Ian Hipple?
Well, because everything we've said so far is like government is hiding stuff. Senator coming forward is like, oh, maybe government knows something, So if there's a governor on our side, then all of a sudden it's like, or a senator on our side, then all of a sudden we're like, oh, there's a credible voice, because the whole time every voice is saying, oh, these guys are hiding stuff.
Governor is interested. So
it's also a voter-based thing.
What is?
Well, like in some states where a lot of these sightings happen, especially like in Arizona, senators are more active with this information because there is actually a UFO vote to win.
That's true. That's
like there's
I totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd think at least.
So in 2007, supposedly he established a program to reopen and investigate whether or not UFOs pose a national security threat. There are whispers and a little bit of information here and there about I got two different names of programs, but really couldn't find information about them. Glowing Auroras and Black Money are the two different programs. But stated by the former head of one of those programs is that the goal was to simply determine if UFOs were a national threat. The man who, I have this guy's name here somewhere, Louise something. Louise. I'm so bad at pronouncing names. Elizondo was the former head of this program from 2007 through 2012. In 2012, hypothetically, the program was shut down. He claims the program is absolutely not shut down, that the funding was just stopped, but from the federal government, and the federal government apparently annually was giving about $22 million to this advanced aerospace threat identification program, which is quoted in a New York Times article from 2017. $22 million. In 2012, when that money stopped coming in, which is what's interesting, and while that program was still operating, Louise, in an interview with CNN, claims that most of the research that is done by this so-called advanced aerospace threat identification program isn't actually a government program. There is a private company owned by billionaire Robert Bigelow. The company he owns is Bigelow Aerospace, and his company does entirely all of the private investigation of UFO reports and more with the government.
Bigelow's in space.
Bigelow's in space. His program is currently still working with NASA, the DOD, and he has his own private investigating team that is supposedly taking all the information from private, public, those two words don't make sense together, but like commercial, pilots. Non-government pilots, whenever they're flying around, supposedly if they see something that they cannot explain in their handbooks, they don't report it to their airline, the airline, the government, the air tower. They are given instructions to report it to this company, Bigelow Aerospace. And then Bigelow Aerospace will do the investigating of whatever that they find.
That's not a conspiracy thing either. That's like a proven thing. If they see some nonsense in the sky, they don't report it to the Air Force, the president, the government, their superiors in the company. The airport, they have to go to Deuce Bigelow, male gigolo, and tell him what they saw.
Bigelow Aerospace. Do you know what this guy's
psyched
famous
to hear
for,
that they're
too?
coming out with a third movie.
What's that?
He wants to build a hotel on the moon.
Who's the Virgin Airlines guy? These guys sound like they're in cahoots.
I don't know.
Richard Branson and Deuce Bigelow seem like they're dancing naked on the moon together right now.
Robert
in the
Bigelow.
motel room.
Let's not get this guy's name wrong. He's still a billionaire that could very much come after us.
Oh, Robert Bigelow, come after me.
Yeah,
Jiggle your little male gigolos at me. Guess what? Your gigolo, Deuce Bigelow, when you go to space, it's colder out there, so your gigolos are going to get a little tinier. Just a warning. That's a little science for you.
A little science, Bigelow.
It's crazy that for some reason the U.S. government has deflected to investigate this. We don't want to deal with it. Privatize it, or don't even. It's not even known that it's privatized. It's sort of privatized. We funded them for a long time. I don't know. Does that not seem a little honky to you?
Well, I can't think of a motive for them to do it one way or another. Like if aliens are real as the government, wouldn't you want to be the head of that organization? And if they aren't real, wouldn't you also want to be the head of that organization so you could shut people up and be in control of it? But I honestly think that leans more towards them, or sorry, not aliens being real, but aliens being here.
Think about it. Don't even think about it in the lens of, are aliens here? Just think about it in the lens of, there is undeniably, there is aerial phenomena that we cannot explain. The Pentagon released that footage. I know we've watched it together, of the FA-18 pilots tracking this thing that seems to move with unprecedented technology that we cannot explain. But the government is like, fuck it. We're not going to have interest in it. Pass it along. What's up with that?
It just seems like they're distancing themselves another layer so that people can't associate the government with it.
Yeah, because if I'm dealing with these complaints all the time, and every time it comes up the funnel to me and I'm the government, I'm going to be like, all right, you know what? I don't give a shit about this stuff. If there's anything important, we'll know anyways. So let Deuce Bigelow take care of it, and we'll just be on track of what's important regardless. But at the same time, I get that. Like if like the videos you said, Sheik, I feel like
have
that
you
would
seen
not.
Those you know what videos I'm referencing?
Yeah. Where it's like fighter pilots, and they like zoom down to right above the lake and then zoom away, and they released them recently. But back when I saw those, and right after I saw the Bob Lazar documentary, I was more convinced than ever that aliens were here on Earth. But after hearing all these testimonies, it got sent backwards. But regardless, as the government, I agree with you, Cheek. Don't you want to know every time someone sees something? Regardless,
doesn't it make sense that the government is the entity that investigates the infiltration of our airspace?
Well, I'm sure they are still the ones in charge of dealing with all this, but they just put it under the title of Deuce Bigelow, and like I'm sure that there are government employees or qualified people that they put in that role, and it's just like a distancing for the public eye.
I could see that.
That's my take.
That's the only way that really makes sense in that scenario. Because even like a lot of the stories are like, oh, it was foreign spycraft. Wouldn't you also want to know about that as a government? So like, either way, the government's got to be associated with it somehow. I agree with E's take on that.
So if you go to YouTube and you want to find an interview from CNN interviewing the guy that used to head this organization, Luis, I'm awful at pronouncing, Elizondo. If there's a YouTube clip of him being interviewed by CNN, and the interview just like, I felt really unsettled after it. At a very specific point in the interview, the CNN interviewers ask basically, referencing the footage of the FA-18s, do you believe that the footage from the FA-18s, from that footage, do you believe that we should think that these are UFOs? And Louise responds very politically and says, I'm not going to discount that, but I think that there are a lot more things besides an FA-18's testimony that we need to acknowledge here. We have, radars and, I'm paraphrasing. He says all these other technologies that I'm sure are important to aeronautical navigation. And after he says that, he's like, yeah, so I don't discredit it, but, we can't confirm it. And all these other things we need to read into are important. And then after that, the CNN interviewer basically is just like, oh yeah, okay. That's very interesting. Good point. And I'm just sitting there like, you can look up the interview, and I'm just like, why aren't you asking the question, do those other bits of information and data that you collected through the radar, the whatever it's called, the whoever it's called, and the other piece of technology, does all of that also lead to aliens? Why are you not asking that question? And so me watching that interview, I think, and everything that I've seen from the media discussing the possibility of UFOs makes me think that they want nothing to do with it. No media company wants to be the first media company that says aliens exist. Here's empirical evidence. Because the worst thing a media company can do is be wrong. But
well, yeah, but then there wouldn't be empirical. If there's empirical evidence, the news,
the neglect of speculation is unheard of. There are videos from the Pentagon of what are possibly UFOs that even the F-18 pilots think are UFOs to be.
The issue is that
aliens, and nobody's talking about it like it's the end of the world. They should be.
I don't know if I agree with it being the end of the world. I think those videos you're talking about are super questionable, and they have now been released. Why are they
questionable?
And because of how the spacecraft or the aircrafts move, we don't know what it is. I would say that the way they move, Bob Lazar's, I really like Bob Lazar's description of how, like, there's no science to back any of this up really, but the closest one that I've heard is Bob Lazar's description of how they have these like gravity displacement beams that point around where they need to go, and they pull the gravity towards them as they move.
Yeah.
That to me is the most scientific answer I've ever heard about a spacecraft. But the issue for me with all of it is that I think that a lot of people, I think that if we had empirical evidence, a news channel would come forward, but we don't. And right now it's a very tabloid topic. Like, if you want to be like, big news companies can't take it on unless there's more evidence. So a lot of people avoid it, except for the tabloids, and like the front cover is like, oh, blah, blah, blah says they got abducted, and here's what, read page 24 to hear what they said. You know, that's the kind of thing.
It's too far beyond that, in my opinion. Real big news companies can't cover the topic at all without being laughed at.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same thing with scientists, and it's the same thing with sheriffs. There's something I wanted to talk about earlier about, did you watch that video that I sent you? The TED Talk video?
Yep.
They talk about along the 37th parallel, which is...
I wanted to talk about that too.
It could very much well be an anomaly. It is what it is. Along the 37th parallel,
it's bogus.
There is every military underground base. The most frequent reports of seeing UFOs, and subsequently the most frequent cases of cattle mutilation, where
that was creepy.
Tens of thousands of cows are frequently found drained of blood with no evidence of wild animals, other people, whatever, with no realistic explanation. Tens of thousands of cows are found drained of blood along the 37th parallel, where also all of the UFO sightings are happening.
Can I tell you, I looked into that a little bit, and that I looked into it because that spooked me. I was like, is that true? Because that guy on that TED Talk spoke with such certainty. And that's one of my biggest issues with UFO theorists, is that they speak with such certainty, and kind of like Tasha was talking about last week, where they build off assumptions as if they're truths. So they say, so since the pyramids were made from aliens, then we know that it's kind of like that kind of logic where they build off things that we don't know is true. But this guy's kind of like that. He builds off these assumed truths and then leapfrogs from there. And so one of the things he was saying is that there is a strong correlation, and there's a huge problem with correlation and causation. I think everyone has this issue where like you could correlate the amount of cheddar cheese sales with Super Bowl wins in a certain year and in the AFC winning, but like and those aren't actually caused by each other. What isn't caused by the other. So I think something that he's looking at, and I looked at where this mutilation happens, and there's a broader topic of mutilation, and it doesn't just happen on the 37th parallel. It happens in Northern Europe. It happens in Indonesia. And so what I was seeing, the first thing I looked, but that I think, to me at least, that eliminates the 37th parallel thing, because like the whole thing about the 37th parallel is that Arizona's on that line and southern Colorado's on that line, and a lot of sightings happen in that line. But then if you're going to say that it's the 37th parallel, then like you eliminate all the Alaskan sightings, which are a ton of, northern Canada, a ton of them, southern America, a ton of those sightings. So then you're going to eliminate those. But I guess the thing that I have to say the most about this 37th parallel and the mutilation thing is that it is spooky. It's weird. There is actually no concrete evidence as to what is happening to it. The weird thing about the mutilation of these, of the genitals and organs on these cattle and things like that, is that it's clean cuts. So it's not like, I looked it up. I was like,
they're surgical,
well, this has
right?
to be wolves or something. Yeah. And I was like, this has to be wolves or something. I was like, what do wolves eat first? And wolves do go for the animals, and predators in general go for organs, genital organs, large organs first. But the cuts on the animals are like, they're like slices. It's like someone went into it with a knife. So right now, the current best explanation is that it's satanic, and like a lot of these align with like full moons and stuff like that. So a lot of people go out and commit like other people's animal sacrifices on these days. But I will say that to me, this is another one of those big, like, what the heck is going on things, because just to say that tens of thousands of cattle deaths are just satanic, crazy hooligans going out and committing satanic rituals or sabotaging farm owners, killing each other's cows, that doesn't do enough to explain to me what's happening to them.
I think we're getting to another conspiracy, which is the chupacabra.
Well, people, that's not even. Are you serious about that? Because that is something they were talking about in the news articles. I'm sure. Because a lot of it, New Mexico is in the 37th parallel zone as well, and that was happening a lot there. And La Llorona is in there, so they say,
is that the crying witch,
crying
widow?
Mother who?
Yeah, crying witch. That was a movie we couldn't stop laughing at.
Yeah. Wow, spooky. But we're not on the 37th parallel here, just southern Colorado. But
I love the idea of a healthy satanic population performing rituals.
That's true. Like, good to hear they're all out there thriving and practicing religion. That's got to be good. Well, that reminds me. One thing that I heard that was funny is that Christianity has prepared for the discovery of life, because apparently they issued a statement a couple years ago saying that like God can create life on any planet. And so therefore discovery of life on another planet does not discount the existence of God. It just expands his domain.
The Catholics did the same thing.
Yeah.
They said the discovery of life outside of planet Earth does not in any way interfere with the Catholic doctrine or something along those lines. Mm-hmm. Do you think that's a little fishy for these like religions to come out with those statements before any sort of what we consider concrete evidence has been presented?
Well, that's one of my biggest things. I was talking to E about that in the break, is that one of the biggest things that I have, a trend that I see with a lot of people who see aliens and have UFO spottings, is that if you go back in the Bible and things like that, there's a lot of, from second, I don't know, other people are saying there's scriptures of flaming shields in the air and things like that. And that was all attributed to religion. And now when people see stuff like that, they attribute that to aliens. And one of my theories is that basically believing in aliens and UFO sightings is becoming a new religion. It's just you spot something that you don't recognize, or you have a trauma that you can't process, and you attribute it to something that makes sense to you in that moment. So if you're a conspiracy theorist,
but I don't think that's
spiritual
fair.
Things. But all right, so let me categorize it at least. I might be wrong, but back in the day, religion was used so much to describe things that we didn't know scientifically could occur. And so I think that's one way alien spottings can be categorized. So I don't want to say that something didn't happen to the people who saw UFOs and aliens and have abduction stories. I think something happened. Absolutely. I just think that brains have a proclivity to not tell the truth in times of stress, and science leads against their claims in a lot of ways. And I don't think I think if anything, the government is working against, if there were UFOs, the government would work against it. The science would work with it. And at the same time, I think a lot of UFO and alien theorists, their logic applies almost directly, and it aligns a lot with people who deny climate change, because like they want to frame themselves as critical thinkers, and they want to say, oh, I look at this. I'm like, a lot of people who don't believe in climate change frame themselves as critical thinkers, and they say, oh, like, I'm not sure if I want to believe that. I'm thinking outside the box. I'm not going by convention because I want to think about it more. But that doesn't make you a critical thinker. That just makes you a science denier. And as of current, we don't know scientifically of any actual technology that allows aliens to get us to where we are now. And it wouldn't make any sense that scientists wouldn't know, because there's tons of independent science operations going on that would have no interest in hiding this information and have every interest in being the first to publish it. And so to be someone that says, I don't believe that we don't have any signs of life on our planet, really goes against science for me. And a lot, like, I think Joe Rogan frames himself as a critical thinker in this aspect, in saying, oh, I think we have aliens, and I think it's something we have to think about. Maybe we're not being honest. And I fully agree that the government's not honest with us in every way, but we have plenty of independent government agencies and observatories and radars and all that kind of stuff watching to the sky that have not picked up on a single thing like that yet. And it could be a government cover up, I guess, like if you're on that story, but I don't know. Can I talk about the science? Quick, brief overview, unless you have a follow up on that, Cheek.
I want to talk about one thing before you delve into the science of it.
All right.
As you may know, there was a recent claim by Haim, who is the former head of Israel's defense ministry. Mm-hmm. And this guy, he went out there and he was talking to some magazine, basically, and claimed that there is a galactic federation. Aliens exist. Trump knows about it. Israel knows about it. They've had contact, and they have contracts. They have contracts with these aliens that allow them to perform experiments on humans, and that there is some sort of base underground on Mars.
It was below the surface of Mars.
Some underground base under the surface of Mars. So that happened recently, right? He didn't say that to an American or an English news source, by the way. It was to some sort of Israeli magazine that was translated. He wasn't being interviewed by anyone from the US. There's a man by the name of Paul Hellyer, who was the former Canadian Minister of National Defense I believe in the late 60s, early 70s, who has since been claiming that there are aliens. He also spoke of a galactic federation, this Looney Tune Canadian guy. And, I think it's something that we have to discuss. Unfortunately, because they were people in roles that were important. I don't think that anybody who is in an important role is a smart person. I don't agree with that, obviously. My boy Donnie, I don't agree with that. But I think it's interesting that two completely removed officials of two completely different governments created similar stories about similar things. Now, within those stories, both of these people referenced multiple species of aliens. One of those species being smaller than a praying mantis. Put him in a locker. That's why I said that earlier. We've probably got a locker of them locked up in Grand Central. Another of them being noted as a species called the Nordic blondes. Now, yes, that's where this ties a little bit back into Travis Walton. They claim there are multiple species of alien. It's like an MIB thing. The way these guys talk about it is like it's a Men in Black situation. They're living among us. And the Nordic blondes can pass as humans. So if you're listening to the Travis Walton interview and he talks about at some point he's approached by a figure that looks like a human, and then you hear these claims about the Nordic blondes, and then you hear these claims about there are multiple species of aliens working together, that separate species of alien that approached Travis Walton very well could have been one of these species that is humanoid, that very much looks like humans and could pass as humans. I mean, that's the thought process, right? Not to mention, I'm going to go in a little bit further. Paul Hellyer talks. There's a big interview you can watch with Paul Hellyer, this former Canadian minister. And Travis Walton says the same thing, where he doesn't think that these aliens are here for any destructive purposes. They don't want to take us over. They're here in peace currently, but they both say in their interviews that they are concerned about the nuclear presence and the nuclear powers that we possess with the ability to destroy worlds. We have the ability to destroy Earth. If we wanted to, we could blow the fuck out of Earth. Now, let's connect that with this 37th parallel, where most of the spottings of UFO activity is happening at the 37th parallel, where 99% of nuclear testing throughout history happened in American desert on the 37th parallel throughout Nevada and New Mexico and Arizona. I'm just saying that those things tie together nicely. I don't think that's not definitive evidence. I just think it's something fun to think about. Is the only way that I want to frame it. And now I'll leave that open to
I don't really
Eli,
get that
if you have a response to that, or
I don't really get that connection between testing bombs and having UFO sightings.
Well, there's a chance that we're taking technology from aliens, right? Is that what you're saying, Cheek?
No, I'm saying that we've developed this nuclear technology that can destroy worlds. And both Travis Walton and his experience and Paul Hellyer and his experience as the defense minister with aliens, for some reason, claim that aliens are most concerned with our ability to destroy worlds. They are peaceful and they want us to be peaceful. And they would present themselves along the 37th parallel, because that is where we first detonated nuclear technology, where we first demonstrated the ability to destroy worlds. So that's what they would most be concerned with. That's why they present themselves in the 37th.
I don't see why aliens would be concerned with our technology to use bombs, because their technology is already far superior than ours.
Yeah, that doesn't make much sense to me. If they can travel beyond the speed of light to get to us, I don't know. I get that you're just relaying a message, Sheik. I'm just thinking on it. But let me get to the science side of things. So, Sheik, you tasked me with the science. Two other stories I hit that were convincing. First the Phoenix Lights. Do you remember that one, Sheik? Did you cross that one?
I didn't cross that one. Talk to me about the Phoenix Lights.
That's another like top 3 famous UFO sightings.
There are the Capitol Lights. I remember the Capitol Lights.
What's that?
There were lights over the Capitol building that people claimed to be.
That might be part of the Phoenix Lights.
All right, keep going.
So there's sketchy. The sightings of any story are never the part that get me. It's the reactions. If there's a reaction or some like a logical study up afterwards, that's when I can get tripped up a little bit. So at the Phoenix Lights, a bunch of people saw lights in the air, and everyone was like, "What are they? They're in a V formation. That's a little spooky." People called it in. Phoenix is already a place prone to UFO sightings and things like that, and I really think that the more UFO sightings are, the more likely that more people will see them later. I think it's a trick their minds play on them. But regardless, tons of people called it in. Like lots and lots of people had called it in. So much so that senators from Arizona started saying, all right, we need to follow up on this. We need to figure out what it is. They end up actually, the Army says, it was actually a flare experiment at first, which is kind of like, by all the criticism that I looked at, people were like, all right, that sounds like a spin of the wheel. What are we going to tell them this time, type of thing, you know? Whether
flares make light, whether they blow up. Yeah, exactly. Like it was flares, or we launched flashlights into the sky, and this time flares won. And so people didn't really buy it. And then I guess there was like a little bit later, a bunch of more people spotted some other anomaly, and the government again said it was flares. And so that was one suspicious thing, because like flares doesn't really solve what people were reporting. My biggest issue is that like people weren't reporting things until popular culture made them up first. And then people's reports started looking a lot like what pop culture had painted aliens and spaceships and all that kind of stuff like. So this is a lot that follows that line. Mm-hmm. Does this other thing also not follow this line? Report of sexual abuse happens far more often when somebody leads the way and reports the abuse in their life. And then more people feel like they're able to come forward and say, yes, this has also happened to me.
Yeah, but the issue is sexual abuse actually definitely happens. And there's definitely a scientific trace back to sexual abuse. And I have trouble even comparing that, because there's never actually been a confirmed sighting where there has been confirmed sexual abuse. I'm talking about in the first case,
the coming forward. People.
Yeah, but the thing is, no one came forward before popular culture, like cinema, movies, books, radio, before those things created them. There weren't any. Gray aliens didn't come up till George Orwell's World of Worlds. Humanoids didn't come up until the 1960s when someone created humanoids. Those things, that was the first appearance of any of those in literature or reports. And as soon as those come up, then all of a sudden more and more people start reporting those. And I'll credit it to maybe they didn't know how to explain it before, and now they can explain it. Now that there's been an example, and a lot of times real life follows science and science fiction and things like that, like phones and communicators like in Star Trek and things like that. But in this case, yeah, you could claim there have been UFO spottings, but people just didn't say it beforehand, like in the Bible and any religious experience and things like that before. But no one reported anything about a gray humanoid until George Orwell made it. Like that's even what E.T. was based off of. So I'm just saying that there's a suspicious cause and effect to that, I guess.
I think that's modern history. Isn't there a lot of like ancient hieroglyph and cave drawings that could also be interpreted as, you know, potentially it's all, you know, it's ancient. It's no one was around. There's no specific guide for interpretation, but there is theory there.
Yeah, there's stuff where, especially like I think of in Ancient Aliens, where they look at it and like, well, we interpreted it this way at first, but maybe it could have been this other way. But at the same time, a lot of that is intertwined with religion and things they couldn't explain and that kind of thing. So I find that hard to compare. Although, yeah, it does fall in that lines. There's always been things that we can't explain and we explain it away with something from pop culture, and religion can very much fall into pop culture in a lot of ways. The other incident, though, other than the Phoenix Lights, is one of the more convincing ones I have ever read, and it was because of this research you had us do, Cheek, is the Falcon Lake incident, where a geological person, and again, this is off the 37th parallel, so I don't think it follows that, but this is someone, he was for fun collecting rocks, like some people do. And
weirdos.
And apparently he sees this like light shimmer around, and as every story starts, he didn't suspect it to be UFO at first, but whatever. It lands right in front of him. He walks up to it. Once again, I could see myself doing that. And he specifically depicts this like square, I guess checkered pattern is the best way to put it. It's a bunch of dots that form squares. And he notes that specifically. And he walks up to it, and then next thing he knows, it's like 8 days later, and he runs to the doctor's office, and he has this burn pattern of the same pattern that was on the ship. And apparently those burn patterns were very similar to beta gamma or beta radiation burn marks that he got on him.
What year was this?
I think it was in the 60s. I don't know. Don't take my word for that one.
Are there pictures of his body?
Yeah, there are pictures of his body with those burn. I don't have them, but there are pictures of his body with those burn marks on him. I don't remember his name, but if you look up Falcon Lake burn marks, they have those. That one, I can't explain that one. I don't know what that is. To me, that's he fell subject to some government experiment or some bullshit freak accident that didn't create him into a superhero, which just sucks because every other story that turns you into a superhero. But so that's another one that I heard that kind of compelled me.
That's pretty whack. I think everyone should look this up. Falcon Lake burn marks.
Mm-hmm.
Can you send that to me, E?
Can you also write that down for?
Yeah.
Look for that in our social media if you're so inclined.
Keep going. I'm gonna grab my 4-pack real quick to bring out here.
Sure. I'm gonna jump into the science of what we've done to make contact to aliens and what and why we think, if you're on the side of not having made contact with aliens, why we think that's happened. So, the first things we have done, our Earth from multiple different points, we're constantly sending out a radio signal at a constant beat, so that and we've been doing that since like the 70s or something like that, the 60s.
The radio waves?
Yeah, we've been sending out constant radio waves just in case someone strolls by or it sometime gets far enough into the galaxy that someone can pick it up. That's our first thing to do. The next thing we did is we sent out in a collaboration with Carl Sagan, we sent out this like on a satellite out into space, just kind of shot it out there, a record player that had engraved on it a picture of the most common element in the universe, which is hydrogen. And it's a depiction of it shifting into its energy state. So it's shifting states, therefore releasing energy, which is basically the most common physical interaction that can happen in the universe. The other things we put on there is how to say hi in every language. We put on one of our favorite songs. I forget which one it is.
Like a Mozart or something.
Yeah, something like that. It's on a golden record, and it's mounted in the spaceship on a record player ready to play in case they didn't know how to do it. And it also has biometric like 0, and it's also all of that stuff is also coded 0101 on it as well. So it's basically every way that we as humans during the time of record players knew how to communicate. And so that was like one of our biggest attempts, one of our most famous attempts. I think it's a little cheesy to me. I feel like that's more of lip service to send out a record player with, it's like our Rosetta Stone, but like to anyone who finds that, they're going to be so much past advanced us to be able to understand what this plastic disc is. But so one thing to keep in mind to me is the reason we haven't seen life to me is that the universe has been around for more than 13 billion years. And if you counted the amount of time Earth has been alive, it would be 12 minutes. If you condense the whole life of the universe into a year, Earth will have been alive for 12 minutes before midnight on the end of that year, December 31st. So that's how little of the universe time we've been alive. Meaning that like someone could have developed at our same rate, but billions of years before us. You know, they could have gone way past us. And this is talking about the Fermi Paradox, which I think we've talked about before. But one of the first, the reason the Fermi Paradox came about is because someone asked at some point, where is everybody? Why aren't there aliens everywhere? The universe has been around for so long, as far as we know. First one is habitability. The first reason is habitability. Is there a reason? Maybe we're in the only place that you can really live. I think that's bongus, but that is one idea. As far as we know, there are trillions of planets.
Yes. So that was something that I had also myself researched. We thought that it was extremely unlikely that there was another planet in this Goldilocks zone that we were close enough to a sun that could melt water, but not so close that it would evaporate the water, because we assume that life requires water.
Right.
And we thought we thought that those planets were very, very rare. We have apparently since come to understand that it is a lot less frequently rare. And this was another thing that I really wanted to touch on, and that I'd hope that you would touch on, is what we can perceive and understand for the scale of not simply our own galaxy, but the universe is absolutely bonkers. Like, even if it's rare that our planet is the only planet that lies in this Goldilocks zone, which isn't true, it's actually fairly common. There are billions and billions and billions of stars that host planets that are absolutely capable of hosting life. And to think that our planet is the only planet that evolved life, intelligent life, maybe, that too, we can get that in the debate, is incredibly arrogant.
Yeah, no, I agree. So that's the first one. That's just the number one where we say there's no habitability, if that's the right way to say it. But yeah, I agree with you, Cheek. Statistically, I think there was something that said something about the Milky Way galaxy. If you just looked at that alone, because that's the only span that we can really accurately inspect at this point. And if you look at that and you say that it's something like 0.1% of the planets in the sweet zones actually have the water and atmosphere to hold what we're talking about. And then on top of that, 0.1 is the likelihood that one of those could hold us. It's still like over 1 billion planets or something like that.
Right? It's bananas.
It's incomprehensibly large. So just statistically, it would be super, egotistic to assume that we're the only, at least, life. But that doesn't necessarily explain why. So habitability is the first threshold, but just being habitable doesn't mean that you're a human or an intelligible life form. The next one would be, how is it possible that life came from nothing? That's the next big question. Like, where did our life come from? How did you smash rocks and lava together until something that could create Bluetooth came about? How does that?
The BlackBerry.
Bluetooth is an awful example. Bluetooth is the only technology that's been around for 15 years that hasn't gotten any better. Fucking bullshit Bluetooth, I'll tell you.
True. I'm sorry, Cheek. I didn't mean to use Bluetooth.
Sorry, I hate Bluetooth. 5G. But that's another one. It's like, where do we come from? I looked into that one because that's the one that troubles me the most. Is like, so either answer one, something extremely random happened. Yeah, God. And I think that would eliminate other forms of life. I think that if there's a God, I think that's an advocate for simulation theory. But it's either that or something really random happened and some random atoms bashed together and made a single cell organism. That is also an advocate for being that would also filter us to be maybe one of the only life forms. But the one that I think is more likely, that still doesn't explain much, is that we came from a meteor that had some kind of organism on it that hit our planet, or another planet that hit our planet. It was the one or two single cell organisms that it landed and kind of developed with the Earth. But that would mean it came from somewhere else. And where did that come from? I don't know. Slippery slope. The next
first, one
the chicken
is,
or the egg?
What's that?
Chicken or the egg?
Chicken or the egg? Egg.
Chicken.
Oh, chicken.
Oh.
The other one, the third one out of 7, just so you know, there's more, but I narrowed it down to my favorite. Life on other places doesn't have the technology, so they're like us. The question is, I mean, if they don't have the same technology, they could be trillions of light years away in one of the infinite numbers of planets. So even though we've been sending out signals and they might have been sending out signals, it just might not. It's very possible that it didn't cross. Not to mention, like I said, we're 12 minutes before midnight in the life of the universe. They could have existed at any different time. The next one is maybe they explored a time way before us, or they developed technology to sense that we're here, or anything like that, and they don't want to be found. And maybe their technological advancements didn't lead them to being like, oh, we want to go find other planets. We want to rather build technology that harnesses 100% of the power coming from our sun, creates a supercomputer where we can upload our minds, and we can live billions on billions on billions and billions and billions of lives in a matter of seconds, and never have to worry about that kind of thing ever again.
What the fuck is that theory?
Yeah, that's a very popular theory because that's along the lines of the simulation theory. But like a lot of people say that, like, what if because we think that, going off our physics, we think you can't travel the speed of light, faster than the speed of light. And even if you could travel the speed of light, it would take you like 1 million years to get out of just our Milky Way galaxy. And so maybe that becomes an unachievable dream. And instead you want to harness all the power of your sun and do everything that we don't know the bounds of technology. And so you want to do everything the bounds of technology can handle. And so basically what the theory is there is that you create solar panels that surround the sun. This is super sci-fi, and create a super quantum computer. Listen to episode 1 and 1 part 2. And you create a quantum computer that allows you to, like, we're all moving towards kind of like cyber uploading our brains anyways at this point, to have this like Sims type but ultra realistic universe where time passes in an instant in our real time, but in relativity, you're living lifetimes, you have kids in lifetimes, you get to move on. It's this whole preservation of your brain and unification of society. It's far-fetched, but also plausibility. Maybe their goals, basically what I'm saying is maybe that civilization's goals isn't to reach you the same way you do. And maybe that's where they are. They have advanced past this super awesome barrier of technology, but they didn't choose to come look for you. The next one is great filters. Maybe there are great filters in life that either we have passed or haven't gotten to yet that eliminate life as we know it. So like maybe the meteors, maybe every life evolution, no matter where you are, has a meteor hit, has the convergence of like, because the moon is made from another planet hitting us and then them splitting off. Maybe every planet has that. And maybe it's statistically unlikely that you make it through that and we are just the outliers. Or maybe there's some kind of technological barrier that all of a sudden every civilization creates technology to the point where it destroys them. That kind of thing. Maybe that's another great filter. The other one is, along with the first one, maybe there's no other life. I don't buy into that one. I won't give that one much light of the day. And then the other one is maybe we're squirrels in a forest. Maybe we're, this is the last one. Maybe we and other life civilizations are just squirrels in the forest. And there is
talked about this last season.
Yeah, exactly. And there's other civilizations out there that are going and harvesting just like we do from the rainforest. They're out there just harvesting materials from other planets. And they recognize there's life everywhere because they're super advanced. But they're saying, oh, look at these cute little squirrels in the forest. Mow down the trees. And then later like, oh, maybe that affected those humans and now they're dead. But they're not here for us. They're here for our resources. They drain our oceans to easily access what's below them and things like that. So that's the scariest one to me, but that's also, to me, what's most likely, because if anything was going to colonize us, it's probably this like self-replicating army of robots that comes and autonomously collects all our shit, because you can't send humans that far into time. Like, so I'm assuming there's a lot of life that can't make it that long. So I don't know. That's a long-winded way to say what science thinks about UFOs. And a lot of scientists will claim that the UFO sightings on land and all that stuff has to do with other governments testing new technology. Like a lot of UFO sightings were attributed to those like stealth planes we were making back in the Cold War era. And a lot of people thought they saw UFOs when those were taking off from Area 51, and it ended up being these like things that actually don't really look a lot like planes.
Well, they touched on that.
Mm-hmm. I do want to say that I compiled a list of people that I think are would be aliens if aliens do exist on Earth.
Share that.
Yeah. All right, let's hear it. And then there's another train of thought I want to take you down.
All right. So if I know I've sounded like a hater right now, but if there was ever going to be a snippet that you pulled from me, if aliens did exist on this Earth, I would want you to pull this one, because I'm making my calls right now of who the aliens on Earth are right now. The first one that came to my mind is Macaulay Culkin. He's an alien.
Yeah. Home Alone guy?
Home Alone guy. He's an alien. Steve Buscemi. He's absolutely one of those like little cockroach guys in Men in Black.
Doesn't Dennis he play Rodman, an alien in Men in Black?
I don't know. He might. I wouldn't tell because he blends in so well.
He plays the mini head on Johnny Knoxville's body, I think.
Does he actually?
I think you remember Johnny Knoxville's character in Men in Black 2 has like a little guy coming out of his backpack. I think that's Buscemi.
Oh, I could buy that.
I could be wrong.
The next one, I believe it. I mean, he's an alien. Dennis Rodman, I never understand a single thing that guy says. Alien. Betty White, how is she so old? Alien. Pete, hip, Christopher Walken, he is an alien. That man babbles and I don't understand what he's saying. Brad Pitt, way too sexy. Alien. Nick Cage, that man breathes way too hard to have been environmentally brought up on this earth. He's an alien. Elon Musk, too smart, alien. Grimes, married Elon Musk, alien. Edna from The Incredibles, too smart, alien. Jim Carrey, absolutely an alien, too funny. Jared Leto, that guy is crazy.
Jim Carrey has too much facial, muscle. Like, have you seen that video of him doing the Grinch thing where he's talking about oh, and then a kid came up to me and he was like, I'm the Grinch. And he just does it perfectly.
His face is too malleable. He doesn't know how to exist in human society. Absolute alien. Jared Leto, that man creeps me out. Alien. Kristen Wiig, she is so weird. Alien. Tom Hanks has no idea how to transport anywhere within our atmosphere. Alien. Never seen him transport outside our atmosphere. Johnny Depp, alien. Owen Wilson, wow, alien. Kawhi Leonard, have you ever heard that? Have you ever heard Kawhi Leonard's laugh? Yeah. Alien. Danny DeVito, alien.
Yes.
Benedict Cumberbatch, like, come on. He's an alien. Have you seen his eyes? Willem Dafoe. I mean, does it get more alien than Lighthouse? I don't think so. So that's my list. If anyone's wondering, if anyone wants to quote me, yeah, please, Pete, and please don't forget that I mentioned Pete and Hip in there. Pete, I have a note by it saying, but not really, but maybe, because because I don't want to insult the aliens if Pete is not an alien. So I just wanted to cover my bases there.
I'm gonna add Dolly Parton for sure. Alien.
Ooh. Dolly
beautiful voice, insane voice. She's like 80 and her voice sounds exactly the same as when it did when she was like 20. Dolly Parton, definitely alien. Mitch McConnell, like alien.
I'm gonna separate him a little. McConnell, alien. I'm gonna say alien, and then in quotes, or
Bernie might be an alien
turtle.
Too. I'm not. I'm not trying to be prejudiced here. I think Bernie could be an alien.
Yeah, he also just might be old. He might be too perfect. I feel like if he was an alien, he came from a utopian society.
He's
just really frustrated.
He's the Senate Treasury, something. He gets to approve every dollar that the U.S. government spends.
Yeah, I love that.
That's my boy.
My boy.
So Dolly Parton, Bernie, Mitch McConnell, who I wrote alien and then in parentheses turtle. Or turtle, just in case we got that one wrong.
He reminds me of that Ghostbusters. He reminds me of that Ghostbusters green glob.
Oh, at the beginning?
Yeah.
When they get it in the trap.
Yeah.
Looks like this.
That big meaty chonker.
Yeah. Any more, you guys?
Johnny Sins has always been my number one alien.
Johnny
Sins.
Who's that?
He's the porn guy. That famous porn star, Johnny Sins.
No,
I watched his
Donald Trump?
No. With the huge dick. Mustache, you just got arrested.
Who?
I don't know many porn stars, I gotta say.
Look it up.
Well, Johnny Sins is definitely the biggest alien. I watched his video vlog and he just does not know how to interact. And I love the idea of an alien coming down to the world and becoming a porn star and trying to fit in.
I was just thinking, what if every porn star is an alien in witness protection? Hiding in plain sight.
That'd make for a great movie.
Sounds like a porno. He has a Martian-sized dick.
So, to wrap this up, the one other thought process I wanted to take you, the one other thought train I wanted to take you on is time is not linear, right? Time is like a plane and it's probably circular. Or so people think.
Like a flat earth. Yeah.
So there is the idea out there. Actually, I've got two more things, but this is the first.
Okay.
That what we perceive as aliens is the evolution of humans, and they've reached such a technological point in their existence that they can come back and interfere and experiment and do whatever the fuck they want to us. And that is why they are humanoid in description.
All right, hold on. I'm processing. So you're saying that it's us, but
future us
developed a way
hundreds
to
of
travel
thousands
time
of
the
years
same way we can
into the future. We've evolved.
Yeah.
And we're coming back into time and we're learning about ourselves.
Well, I could see that because like before planes and hot air balloons and shit like that, the only way we could navigate through gravity against gravity was jumping. That was pretty minuscule, right? And all of a sudden we learned how to fly and now go to space and avoid gravity almost entirely. And that gravity is considered a dimension, and so is time. And I'm wondering and I'm obviously not the first person to wonder this, but there have been other people to wonder, can we navigate time the same way we navigate on a road or up and down or anything like that?
I think Matthew McConaughey would say yes.
Like Matthew McConaughey. And if Matthew McConaughey can figure it out, I think the message is that we can all figure it out.
Calling him a dummy?
That's true. Actually, if Matthew, we might be a couple of years removed. But yeah, that's a theory, Cheek, is that like there's a version of us or a version of another type of being that just kind of walks around time. Like it's a fucking dance hall. I don't know. They waltz around it.
Dance hall of the universe.
It's abstract, but why can't it be possible? Tell me that.
I just want y'all to think a little bit.
I think that is certainly a thinker.
The other thing that I wanted to talk about, and I don't really want to talk about it. I almost want to do a reaction video where I send you guys a video and you watch it and it's like, what the fuck? Because it's a theory.
Is it Jeremy Sins?
No, it's a theory that I think is hilarious. But it stems from that show that we love, Ancient Aliens. And I was meaning to say this earlier. That show has evolved into just like banana theory land.
Well, you can't go. How far can you go with that? Like without being bananas?
I'll tell you what, I don't say no to ancient alien theory. Do you?
Yeah, but yes, I don't know. Let me phrase it like this. I have a bias.
One of the largest, not one of, three of the largest structures ever created was built thousands of years ago when the apex of technology was the wheel. Coincidentally, all of those objects, apex, the point, the top of them, aligns with specific star systems. And that has some significance. Was it just slaves rolling big blocks for hundreds of years? Nobody was like, nah, I'm done with this. Like, it's been 500 years. It would have taken hundreds and hundreds and hundreds to not one, but 3 massive fucking pyramids. How is that possible?
I totally believe no one was like, no, I'm not doing this anymore, because slaves continued to exist for the next 2,000, 5,000 years. I don't know, whatever. That's probably the wrong timeline, but like that wasn't the end of slaves at that point. But yeah, I don't know. The whole thing about it aligning with whatever it is, like Orion's belt or something like that.
I don't get how you can align the point of a building with a constellation, because constellations shift.
Yeah, what does that mean too? Like, I think what they're saying is from above, it kind of looks like Orion's belt. And yeah, sure, you could model it that way. I don't know. I don't know how that technology worked. I think they just had tons of bodies to just throw at it. And it was a shame that people were enslaved, and that's kind of the story there. And they just had they had a project they wanted to finish. But I would say, as far as ancient aliens go, that is the most credible argument. And the issue with the show is that it doesn't have an end date, and they had to keep going from there. Because when they talk about that stuff in the first season, and more likely in the first half of the season, it's like, okay, I'm not full, because they're doing that thing where they're like, since the aliens built the pyramids, then we know that they exist. They're doing that the whole time. But the most credible they ever get is in the first season. And from then on, they are just grasping at straws. They are just grabbing anything that is either unexplained or that people don't largely know about. And they're hoping that people don't look it up, because there's a lot of those things where they're like, they make this crazy claim. And if you just take it, then you're like, all right, sounds like it could be true. But if you look it up at all, there's like very foundational science that counteracts it.
So I just sent you guys a video. Let's either sign off now and make everybody else watch a separate video that we will release as a reaction video, or we can have that reaction video as a part of this episode.
Well, there's two issues with this. Is that there could be copyright. Yeah, if it's History Channel, we're gonna have copyright issues with this.
But nobody's gonna see it. I'll just name the video and then say this is a reaction to this video. Go watch it.
Oh, okay.
We're not showing the video on the podcast.
Hollow Earth theory. Oh my gosh.
Aliens underground.
All right.
How great. How great.
You've seen it, right, Cheek? I'm just going to play it and I'll cut around it.
So for the kids out there, this is one of my favorite alien theories. It's called Hollow Earth theory. Begin.
We'll be back in 1 second. Here, we're back from listening to a video about Hollow Earth theory, and we've obviously covered flat Earth plenty of times, but this is a new gig.
Jay, why don't you? I'm gonna pee, and while I'm peeing,
I'll give a synopsis.
Enlighten the people, because I know about Hollow Earth. I love Hollow Earth theory. I'm not a believer, but I want to be a believer. But
oh, me too. That's with so many of these conspiracy theories. Show me one snippet of convincing evidence and I will fully buy into your theory. I just haven't seen it, but this is a theory about Hollow Earth, which is
there are poles, the north and south poles, that are portals into underground layers of advanced civilizations.
Yeah, if you've ever seen Legend of Korra, it's a lot like that, where you go into the North Pole. And apparently it's been reported that people found a hole that goes into the middle. So forget all the science that says the center of the earth is what warms us and helps keeps us alive partially, and what creates volcanoes and things like that. Forget all that. No, there's a whole nother earth existing on the inside, but instead of looking up at the sun, they're looking up at another side of the civilization. So think of that big ship in Interstellar almost. I don't know about that. That's one of the craziest things. Some of the depictions make it look like there is a gaping hole at the top and bottom of our Earth that somehow flight patterns and common man alike did not notice. And it's far-fetched. I don't really understand. I mean, this is season 10 Ancient Aliens type shit right here. Just grasping at straws.
I never get sold once you know the way they're trying to sell it with like the intense music and the crashes and like, we'd be fools not to believe that this doesn't exist, or
they insult you into believing it. Like, any layman can understand.
I'll never forget like the season 1 of Ancient Aliens where they shoot that guy in the catapult in Egypt. Isn't that terrible? Terrible effects.
That is my favorite scene in all of cinema, is when they're like, they find an ancient carving of a bird, and it's just a whittled bird, like from ancient tools before the wheel.
And they connect it to like a catapult.
This cannot be a bird. There is not a tail. They obviously wouldn't make this mistake. and it looks like you can see the spot where the tail clearly snapped off. And they're like, this is a glider. So then they take it into like this science room and blast air at it and judge the aerodynamics of it. And they say it's only missing a little bit. So they build the perfect version of it. And it's a completely different thing. It's a glider with a propeller on the front and a tail. And they're like, maybe they have created like wind, transfluent aircraft that can fly through the air. And then they're like, but how would they launch it? They didn't have motors. So they're just building on these dumb ideas over and over again. And their final conclusion was that they built giant catapults that were strung to the front of these bird-like gliders where people sat in them, and they would cut the rope and the giant rock would fall and fling the catapult glider into the air across the sky. And it's just so funny to watch like the CGI where there's this little guy and the flight path goes from it being horizontal to it being vertical and shooting into the air with no steering suggested at all, in like a matter of 3 seconds. Like that guy would have died. But
and then it crashes and dies.
Yeah, they don't show the landing. They didn't think to propose that. But I don't know.
I think
there's
to
a way
wrap
of
this
thinking.
episode up, a simple question I must ask. JJ, do you believe?
I believe in aliens. Yes. Do I believe they're here? The more and more I look into it, the less I believe it.
Eli, do you believe?
I believe in aliens. I believe they visit Earth. And I am now a huge fan of this intergalactic confederation of men in black little aliens roaming around the Earth. I love that idea.
That's the thing. I want to believe it so bad.
Yeah.
Especially if the theory is that they have been living amongst us, because that like takes out the idea that they're hostile. So like, I just want to be boys with these guys.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what they all say.
What are they doing this weekend?
In Travis Walton's disclaimer, in Paul, who the fuck is that guy? Paul Hellyer's disclaimer, they all talk about aliens have the technology to blow us away, but they don't want to. They very much believe in the process of, don't interfere with the evolution.
Why not send us a message then?
Because that would interfere with the evolution. Man.
All right. Well, Cheek, if you're comfortable, I'm ready to sign off. We went a solid 3 hours there.
I believe I'm the guy. Hit me up at Cheeky Sean, CheekyS_SEAN. Hit me up on Instagram, on Twitter. I'm not on Facebook, you fucking losers. Aliens are real. They're here. They're among us.
Aliens are on Facebook. They don't understand the nuances of our culture. I'd like to sign off with just Cheek. What is one thing you'd like to say to aliens if they're listening to this podcast?
I like you.
Thank you. Thank you, prior guests, for giving us that advice.
Also,
what would you like to say to aliens?
Listen to Grateful Dead, man. It's good music.
Can you imagine if Cheek was in charge of sending that First Contact rock out instead of Beethoven, it'd be Fish.
We need to say hello in every language. We need to fit this on this disc. He's like, nah, dude, we can take out German and put in another Dead song.
I was just saying, play Sunshine Daydream, man. Sunshine Daydream. Working in a small tree.
I love you.
Going where the wind blows.
E, what would you say?
I'll give him the cricket hands and go,
that'd be a good one.
Just give him a good rattle and make fun of them for being small like kids.
You do like the joke gum with the electricity.
Tabletop them with you.
Here is an American delicacy. Then grab it, zapped, and then you push them over the tabletop, and then you afterwards. All right, I'll take that as mine as well. That's a pretty good one.
What did you get for being different?
Prank those intergalactic weirdos. All right, well, remember their names: Macaulay Culkin, Steve Buscemi, Dennis Rodman, Betty White, Pete, Hip, Christopher Walken, Brad Pitt, Nick Cage, Elon Musk, Grimes, Edna from The Incredibles, Jim Carrey, Jared Leto, Kristen Wiig, Tom Hanks, Johnny Depp, Owen Wilson, Kawhi Leonard, Danny DeVito, Benedict Cumberbatch, William Dafoe, Dolly Parton, Bernie McConnell, and Johnny Sins.
For the record,
have a nice day, everybody.
Except for the last three, those are only JJ's aliens. I don't think they're aliens except for the last three. Gotta go by.
So yeah.